It's all the music you need, folks.
Baby Driver is directed by Edgar Wright and stars Ansel Elgort, Lily James, Kevin Spacey and Jon Hamm. Baby Driver is the story of a getaway driver who is the best in the business. When he was a kid, his mother and father were killed in a car accident and he still has the hum of the drum and he uses music to drown it out, hence why he is always listening to music. However, things get complicated for Baby when he meets a sweet young waitress and his priorities begin to change and his alliances begin to shift. I was so excited for this movie. Edgar Wright is one of the best and most original directors working today, so saying I was excited for his new movie would be a severe understatement. I was incredibly excited when it was first announced, and every trailer they released was pure perfection. And I have barely been able to keep it together this past week, knowing that Baby Driver was releasing and I was going to be seeing it in a few days. I honestly could not keep my emotions at bay. So let's discuss. I think everybody in this movie is perfectly cast. Ansel Elgort plays Baby and he was fantastic. He had that quiet and secluded and remote vibe which really sold the character well, and he also had that charm and swagger which really added a nice little touch and edge to his character that made him super likeable as a protagonist. Everybody else was just as brilliant. Jamie Foxx is incredibly entertaining and his character is very well brought in. Jon Hamm plays a really great role here too. Now, Kevin Spacey was brilliant in this movie. I mean, he is Kevin Spacey after all, but wow, he was great in this movie, as was everyone, like I said. I absolutely loved how stylized this movie was. Every scene was timed to perfection with comedy and music that it was almost like watching poetry. The whole movie had this entertaining, stylistic coat of paint applied all over it, and you just get lost in it all. I was sat back in my seat and I did not move a muscle while watching this movie. I was that invested. Edgar Wright, as I said earlier, is one of the best directors working today, and he does not let you down in any way, shape or form with Baby Driver. This film is so beautifully directed that it doesn't even feel like a movie at times. It is like you are part of the movie as every frame captures you and launches you into its incredibly particular set and style that you just can't help but fall in love with the movie and every scene that it applies to the screen. Music is also a huge theme in this movie. The entire soundtrack is flawless. I have had the Baby Driver soundtrack playing non-stop since I walked out of the theatre. Each song has a specific and significant meaning to it that has a very special reason for being in the movie at that particular point. It is wonderful and the movie flows with the music, which is absolutely stunning to watch. It is really a thing you have to see in the cinema. The action in this film is also incredibly well handled. As I said, this movie is beautifully directed and this also translates to the action scenes. I'm not sure how much of this was CGI and how much was real practical effects, however that does not matter because it all feels very real and Edgar Wright does such a good job of keeping everything in frame so you know exactly what is happening at all times and you don't get lost as to like who's going where and what cars are, and things like that. You have a full idea and full knowledge of what's happening in every scene. I also really like the relationship between Baby and Deborah, played by Lily James. They share some really sweet scenes together and they really do have a lot of chemistry. This all culminates together to help you get invested and involved with their romance, and you do buy into it as you support them every step of the way, and it is honestly one of the best romances I've seen in a film in a long time. It is really well done, really well thought out, and really well executed. I also love how this movie doesn't try to convolute itself just for the sake of it. This movie has a really nice sensibility about it, which makes it super enjoyable. It doesn't want to overcomplicate the plot and have loads of twists and turns, but that's not to say the movie is predictable, because it most certainly is not predictable. The story just flows and it is wonderful, and it's a really nice way that I've seen the movie develop as it goes on throughout its runtime, as it doesn't try to overcomplicate itself, but doesn't try to make itself simple either. In conclusion, Baby Driver is the definition of masterpiece. I cannot think of a single flaw that could bring this movie down just a little bit. Everything about this movie is super fun and stylized that just gives you a good feeling. This is definitely my favourite movie of the year so far, and it's probably going to stay there at the top for a very, very long time. I give Baby Driver an A+.